So this is lesson 4. In the last lesson I gave a summary of all 12 tenses. Now I must say you are never going to speak correctly just by memorizing this table or the table in the last lesson. This is just a guide for how we use the grammar correctly. But you will be able to speak properly if you memorize the signal words and then say them in the correct tenses 1,000 times, which is the way which I recommend you learn a language, because I think it's the way you learn any language, from repeating it correctly as often as possible. So I want you to pay particular attention to the signal words today. We're going to look at present tenses: present simple, do, does; present continuous, am, is, are, doing; present perfect simple, have and has done; and I've forgotten to write at the bottom, present perfect continuous, which is a very difficult tense. It's very similar to present perfect simple. In fact, sometimes both forms are possible with certain verbs, and it's have or has been doing, have been doing, have been going, have been playing, yeah, or has if it's she. Okay, so present simple should be pretty clear by now. This is for repeated actions. Every day I go to school. He always rides his bike. He often sees me on Tuesdays. Any repeated actions on the timeline, or any permanent states. You can also say I live in this town, because it's considered a permanent state. I spoke a little bit about stative verbs. If you haven't seen lesson number 1 and you don't know what a stative verb is, please watch lesson number 1 and you'll find out what one is, and lesson number 2 talks about them as well. They're very important. So stative verbs are always simple. They are never continuous, not this continuous, nor this continuous, and you'll see that's very important. Okay, so signal words for present simple: every day, always, often, sometimes. Any of these words which mean something is repeated regularly. Okay, present continuous is an unfinished action in the present. It's an unfinished action. You're in the middle of something with present continuous. So at the moment is a signal word for present continuous. Right now is a signal word for present continuous. So we use this for when you're in the middle of doing something. So I am teaching, you are listening, maybe you are watching and writing something down, I don't know. Okay, the next tense, the difficult one, I want you to look at this diagram and see this shows an unfinished action. For example, I am teaching, I haven't finished. And this shows an unfinished period of time. I haven't finished. I haven't finished, I said. I haven't finished. I used the present perfect simple because they are different. This is when you're in the middle of an action and it's not finished. This is when a period of time is not finished. Now perhaps that's still not clear. Let me give you an example. We say in English, I have been married. That's passive with present perfect simple. I have been married for 5 years. Now that's only present perfect if you're still married. If the period of 5 years is a finished period of time, and it finished, say, 2 years ago, you were married for 5 years but then it stopped and you got divorced and you stayed single for 2 years, then we would say I was married. We would use past simple, which isn't here because it's a finished period. But for unfinished periods of time, you must use this present perfect simple. So certain signal words to remember are for, since, and how long. However, only use the present perfect simple with how long, for, and since if you're dealing with the stative verbs. For example, I have known him for a long time. Know is a state, it's a permanent state. So we say I have known him for 5 years. Okay, we don't use it in present perfect continuous, but many dynamic verbs we do, especially if we say how long, for, or since, because this is to emphasize duration, and that's what present perfect continuous is for. It emphasizes duration. So you could say I have been doing my homework for 3 hours, and that's what we would say. You must use present perfect continuous, have been doing for 3 hours, not I have done my homework for 3 hours. But you would say I have done my homework when you want to show the result. If you've got it here and you say, look, I have done my homework, because have done is the result. It emphasizes the result. have been doing emphasizes the duration, the length of time. So how long, for, and since are very often present perfect continuous. However, if it's a stative verb, know, think, believe, see, yeah, you don't say I have been seeing that film. You say I have seen that film, and there's a result. Yeah, I have seen it. I know the plot. So yeah, remember these stative verbs, even with how long, for, and since, they will be up here. However, other words to remember with present perfect simple: already. I have already done it. Here it is. Already is an unfinished period of time. That's it. It refers to an unfinished period. So does yet. So does just. So does ever and never. So do, ever and never. So these words, because when you say I have never been to France, you mean all your life in that unfinished period of time until now. Yeah, I have never been to France. I have never seen that film. Okay, so remember all these signal words: already for positive sentences, yet for negative and questions, just, ever, never, and lastly, how many times. If you say how many times you have done something, use present perfect. I have written 3 letters today. I have seen this film twice. I have been to Paris 20 times. You're saying how many times, which is an unspecified, unfinished period of time. It's not past simple, and it's not either of these 2 tenses. So try to remember, or try to use present perfect with these words, and it will become much easier. Okay, as I said, this lesson was made on behalf of the Learn English Easy as Pie group. That's on Facebook with Mojtaba Yakubi. The URL is below. And for the English with Pleasure group on vk.com. Again, the URL is below. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more lessons. And yeah, there should be another lesson also concerning tenses, past tenses next time, coming in a few days. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon.